So as of now, what I did, I just copy pasted last class project and just taking a walkthrough for you to understand that what is dependency. You can see this is called dependency, line number 9. Okay, we are dependent upon the class in order to create the object. Like that, assume that 100 places we have created this object of employee repository. So 100 places you dependent upon this. Now if any changes in the name of the class, or you added a new class that you want to inject, then it is a difficult task. 100 places you are going and changing the code. So how to inject the dependency? That means I don't want to take the name of the class 100 places. If by chance 100 object has been created for some purpose. Imagine I have 100 controllers, then obviously 100 times I will take this line, right? Line number 9. So can I do something like this? That is the question. With the help of interface, can I do something like this? But unfortunately, it will say, why you don't have any instance, how can you call a function? Have a look. Suppose somebody says, simply delete the right hand side. Will it work, do you think? Have a look whether it is working. It will say object reference error, because instantiation might not have done. If I'll go for F10, in this line itself it will show error. Okay, it will say it is null reference object. How can you call a function using null reference object? Null reference object means not yet instantiated. So that is not the solution. Then what is the solution for this? But we don't want to depend upon name of the class. So who knows, in 2 places it might have used. Let me create quickly one more controller. So at least 2 controller I will create in order to show you the advantage of dependency injection. So I have another controller. Suppose I will name it as something like department controller. One is employee detail controller, one is suppose department controller. Department controller. Okay, so when you are in department controller also, you have to write the same line. That means I will Control Z and I'll copy paste this line here as well. Okay, same way I can call that function here also, just like this. So just assume it is not just 2 places, it is used in hundreds of places. Take it that way. Okay, and here also you have something passing to view to display it. Here also you are passing to view to display it. Okay. Give a minute. Just a minute, guys. Somebody is calling from front office. Okay. So now you have like this hundreds of places or 20 places, 10 places, like that you have used the name of the class. This is called tightly coupling the class name to create the object. But if I want to simply not depend upon this, then it is showing error. Everywhere it will show error, because simply reference is not enough to allocate the memory and call the function or variable or property or anything. Now what to do for this? This is the problem part. Now solution part is, you have to go to middleware, and here you have to inject the dependency. You have to do it like this: builder.Services.AddSingleton. Here you have to mention which interface should be injected with what class. So in this case, my interface employee repository should be injected with which controller? Which repository? Employee repository. So I gave that as a dependency injection. Okay. So I have written steps of approaches in a notepad. I will share it to you. Okay. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. So just see practically I am doing it. Now what I wanted to say, wherever this interface has been referenced across the application, please inject this class. That means I will be loosely coupling with the class name to create the object. Not only that, you have 2 more things to do here. First, you add the singleton interface versus the class. Okay, that is called injecting the dependency. And second step is create the reference of the interface instead of tightly coupling the class name with new keyword. Third is wherever you have that dependency, that means you want to inject this with instance of the repository class. In this also you want to inject the dependency of the repository class. Wherever you are going to inject that class in the runtime, you have to put one constructor, one parameterized constructor. How to put that? Just like this. Constructor will always have the same name as your class name, isn't it? So emp detail controller, and inside that what you do is you create again one parameter of same interface type. Okay, whichever class it is using, every class you use a parameterized constructor which will indicate to again same interface. So here also I didn't take the name of the class, here also I didn't take the name of the class. Now what I will do, I will assign underscore repo equal to this repo. As an example, I am showing you repository injection in the controller, but it doesn't mean in the definition itself we will say this. It may be any X class injecting in Y class. You take it that way. Okay. So it is a C# feature, not an MVC feature. It's a simple design pattern of C#. So, but yeah, in a practical manner, we are using here in a real-time manner, that is injecting the repository class dependency in the controller class. Otherwise, not necessarily. Always it has to be only used for MVC or only used for repository versus this and so on. Who is disturbing this here? Okay. Now next step is you are already injecting it. So where it is injecting is line number 10. So when the application will be executed now, first it will always go to the middleware. So in this line number 7, it will understand that across the application, wherever this interface is used, please inject this class. If any conditional approach is there, you can give like this also. If so and so condition, then inject this class, else inject that class. That also possible. Currently, we have one target class, that's why I am not putting any if else condition. But if necessary, if your business logic says something based on a condition, time to time, I will inject different class also, it is possible. So let's see whether without using the name of the class. Okay, did I use the name of the class, repository class everywhere? No, that is called loosely coupling object of the class when we inject the dependency. So same coding in line number 16, it was showing error. Now same coding, it will not show error because it will inject the dependency. So when it will come to middleware, it will understand that where else this interface is injected through the constructor, please create one instance and push it. So it will come here. Whenever the object of this class will be created, it will come here and it will check reference of this. Then middleware will inject new employee repository because this is one place where you have used the interface. So that indicates wherever that interface is used as a parameter in any constructor, please inject the class name called employee repository, EMP repository. So here full line will be IEMP repository repo equal to new EMP repository. We don't write that, but it will be meaningful that time during runtime. That means your repo becomes object of that class by injecting from the middleware. So that object, it will offer to that reference in reference of the interface, and now it will get the complete allocation of the memory. Same thing has to happen here as well. So here also make a constructor named as department controller, and here also you take something IMP repository with this repo equal to this. That means wherever you have use of that object, repository class object, there you have to do something extra, one constructor, and right side part you have to ignore. So when we write new employee repository, that is called tightly coupling the class name. If you want to change something in the name of the class, or you want to add different class to inject it, it is not being possible. So this design pattern mostly demanded in the product development. Okay. So when you develop a product, that time you cannot say it is only for one customer. It may be for multiple customers. So you will show the demo, then that customer may say, I'm not happy with the 10% of the facility. Can you please modify it? If you are modifying the existing class, then 1000 places error will show. Then it is better to add a new class comparing to modifying the existing class. But if you are adding a new class, then hundreds of places you might have used the old class name. There you cannot go and change suddenly like a MS Word. So coding and MS Word, there is some difference, right? You can say find and replace in MS Word, but here you cannot say that. Lot of dependency. So this is the process mostly helpful in the product approach. So if you are going interview for a product company, if they are going to ask one question from whole .NET, they will ask dependency injection, remember. So let's put a breakpoint here and see now what is happening. So I'll put a breakpoint in the controller, and I'll put a breakpoint in the index. Previously it was showing error here. Let's see what happens now. First it will go to middleware and inject the dependency. Then it will come to the respective default controller and it will receive the dependency. Injecting the dependency from the middleware and receiving the dependency in the controller. So if you see here, have a look. Can you see? If you take the mouse, it is saying that I have injected EMP repository here. In fact, in whole code what you see here, nowhere you have written EMP repository, but it is saying it is an object of EMP repository. How? Because it injected from the middleware and received the dependency in the constructor. Now this is a whole object. This is no more null. Now if I am receiving that, then I'll offer that to local object, that is underscore repo. As of now it was null. Now when I offered it, it become not null. That means this is also becoming a object of EMP repository. So indirect meaning is now underscore repo become I EMP repository underscore repo equal to new EMP repository. Now let's continue it. Then it will come to function, default function. Okay. So when it will come to default function, in this line it was showing error. Now it should not. Now it is comfortably calling the function and then executing as usual how it is supposed to be. Very simple example. That means I'm not depending upon the class name to create the object. Loosely coupling object with the class name. Only one place I'm injecting that class name. If 100 object has been created also, from one place I'm injecting it, saying that wherever this interface is used, please inject this. Imagine tomorrow you showed this demo to one more customer. He is saying that Acha, you are using entity framework, SQL Server as database. We have the approach little different, right? In our version of the code, you have to little give different way, not like all the employee detail you want to pick and all that. I need some 10 extra columns. We need it. So any changes you think, second customer is asking. If you are changing the existing thing, chances there are a lot of places you may get the impact. So modifying the existing thing versus adding a new class is always preferable. Add a new class so that thousands of errors you need not to fix it. Okay. And some demands will be there from customer always. You may not modify the existing. Not necessarily always. If it's a small change, at least you can go and modify it. They are saying add some 2 columns here. You can still modify, because after adding 2 columns also, your return type will be list of employee only. But if it is a drastic change which needs return type changes, maybe input parameter changes, anything changes in this function, or maybe anything changes, like they are saying currently we are using SQL Server, but we don't have money to go for SQL Server licensing. We want to use MS Access, which is free of cost, right, with MS Office. So can you connect it? Will you go for changes? Here you have used a lot of coding, lot of library, will you comment it and use some other? That is not again a good practice. Okay, so that means for every customer you are copy pasting and then maintaining separate version, separate folder. That is also not a good practice. So if you are changing, your customer 1 is suffering. You are not changing, customer 2 is suffering. So these kind of things you may face trouble in product approach. So in that case, what you will do? Leave it is as it is. Don't disturb this. Rather, you go for another class here. Okay, so that you can say when I am giving version number 1 to first customer, inject the employee repository. When I am giving same application to second customer, only one place I will go and change. Instead of EMP repository, I will change it as EMP repository 1 or something. Okay, whatever my second customer's class. So instead of hundreds of places changing the class name and suffering with the errors, you are not even touching all those 100 places. Only one place you are going and changing the class name. Now you are saying, hey, as of now, wherever interface is there, this you are injecting employee repository. Now for second customer, when you are deploying, only change this line, some other class, and then deploy it. So that you added a class, you didn't modify the class. So less chances of errors will be there, and less time consumption will be there for testing also, because you added a class, you didn't modify this class, right? So worst case, you may delay some 2 days release if you are not able to complete the work or so, but your customer number 1 is not suffering. He is saying that my version is fine. So it is injecting employee repository. So this is one of the practical use in the product approach. So, but that is just an advantage I am saying, but definition should not include this product approach and all that. Definition should include if you don't want to depend upon the class name while creating the object. You want to inject the class name during runtime from middleware from one place, then you have to go for the dependency injection. And steps are 3. Step number 1, finish the middleware work. Step number 2, go to the source controller, or this time I am saying controller, but in general you will say source class, target class, right? If it is a console application, imagine, still dependency injection can be used. So in console application, imagine your program class is there and your XYZ class is there. Now XYZ class object you are creating in program class. So your source class become program class, target class become XYZ class. So in source class you have to create one constructor, and that constructor should receive the injection, and your middleware should provide the injection. What do you mean by injection? Now deciding which interface will get injected, what class instance during runtime. So putting a constructor, step number 2, and step number 3 is as usual how you create the object, you create it, but don't include new class name part, right hand side part, and all other places wherever you want to call it, you call it. It will work for you, right? So I just created 2 classes. You assume that like this hundreds of classes are there where perhaps we want to inject the object of that particular class. Acha, here just a point to be noted is, imagine very less places you are using, 1 or 2 hardly, suppose, object of that class, then chance is there you don't need dependency injection. But whenever you are using the object of that class in lot of places, usually somebody prefers dependency injection. Imagine total 1 place only you are creating the object, right? Not even department controller is there. Only one controller is there called employee controller. Only 1 place you are creating the. So don't you think, rather if I am 100% sure nowhere else I will create the object of that class, then why not directly I will write here new EMP repository and I will not use this, right? But dependency injection is useful when you have lots of places creating the object of same class. Instead of depending upon that class everywhere, why not 1 place you inject it, and hundreds of places no need to use that class name. Now suppose I will not inject it, what is happening? You have a look. I just put a comment here, line number 8. Okay, then what will happen? You see, I have created the constructor, I have created the reference also, I am assigning that reference to this reference also, but it will say nobody injected the instance of the class, so it is still a reference only, nobody allocated the memory. So run it and see. Now it will again come to same controller, employee detail controller, because this is my default controller. So life is easy. Now have a look. When it came to the default controller, it is saying, "Arey, your constructor is expecting one injection, but you are not providing it. Did you forget?" Like this, it is reminding you. Okay, because constructor is expecting one injection. So all 3 steps you have to remember and apply. So let me uncomment this so that it will inject the dependency. Now let's run it again. Process is very simple. 1 line in the middleware and 1 constructor in the wherever that object is getting created. So have a look, click on continue. Now it came here. I'll put a breakpoint here and click on continue. You can see, right, it is getting injected by instance of respective class. So when should we use dependency injection? If object of a class is used many places across the application. If only one or two places, you can ignore it. Then how to use dependency injection? Now 3 steps. Middleware, inject the dependency, and wherever you create the object of that class, receive the dependency with the help of some constructor. And third step is create as usual object and call the function, but never use hard-coded class name while creating the object. Line number 9. Okay. So same 3 steps I have written here. I will share it to you. Any question, guys? Manasa? No, no, no. Totally wrong understanding. That is singleton. No, totally wrong understanding. We want to create, but we don't want to hard code the name of the class everywhere. Okay. That means we don't want to depend upon the name of the class hundreds of places. So you want to inject from one place and it will create the instance in everywhere. Singleton I injected because I want one object, that is a different story. But dependency injection is not for singleton. Dependency injection is for loosely coupling with the instance from the class name. So that only one place I can change the name of the class and it will start injecting some other class object. Okay. Don't title couple with the a specific class name. Yes. Latika, do you have any question? Mm-hmm. Object part, I mean instance part, wherever that class name has been hard coded. Startup that. Just to save some time, I copy pasted it, but from the beginning itself, you have to think and apply. That time, don't think. That time, don't think. From the beginning itself, you have to think. No, it is a pre-plan basically. During architecture itself, you will pre-plan it that which class may be used many places. Why not we will use one interface for that and we will inject the dependency from the middleware. Correct, correct. Other places, absolutely. That depending upon the requirement, that may vary. Anyway, without using dependency injection also, we have to add that, right? So that will be in place because that is part of coding. But you are not depending upon the class. Tomorrow, if you are saying that okay, existing class, leave it, one more class you put it, then 100 or 1,000 places you are not going and to change key right hand side part class name everywhere. So you are just going to one place and changing, then it is injecting it from there, right? any condition, like I will say, suppose I will say current country you maintain in configuration. If country is Dubai, then inject this class. If country is India, inject that class. Possible na? Any condition. Definitely. Any condition. Any condition. If you think two classes are there, but based on a condition, either first class can be injected or second class be injected, you can maintain it. Absolutely. No, not possible. Not possible. In fact, abstraction should be there for dependency injection, because interface is the only one who is helping us, right? So it is must to use abstraction if you want dependency injection. Swati, you have any question? Mhm. Basically, you are a developer. You are working for a company, right? So that project is for which company? Do you think the company for whom you are working, that is the company? Some other customer is ordering that project, right? Suppose you are in XYZ company limited. So this project you are developing for some other customer, right? I am talking about that. Who ordered this project to you? His customer. Is that clear? Are you speaking? Your voice is breaking for me, I think. Mm-hmm. Mm. Just change it here. Imagine EMP repository, say that EMP repository 1 or something. That's it. That means as of now it was injecting some other class, now it will start injecting some other class. Same project. Uh, what is adding another customer? Adding another customer means deploying this project in another customer's place. Okay, suppose one customer ordered you, you gave the deployment. Now another customer saw the demo and he is saying, please deploy this in my place also. So that time you don't need to change in hundreds of places. You have to go and change in one place. Instead of this, you can say some other class. Imagine that is new employee repository, then one place only you have to say new employee repository. Okay. If you change hundreds of places, errors will be more, obviously, right? Because there is difference between MS Word document and programming, right? So in MS Word document, you can say that wherever EMP repository there, you please replace with new EMP repository. But in programming, that doesn't work that way. Lot of dependency will be there, right? So prepare the infrastructure in such a way that if one place you are changing the name of the class, it should inject everywhere. Currently in this line it is injecting EMP repository, isn't it? Now you thought that I don't want to disturb the existing class, I want to add a new class here, suppose. But entire application, how it was working based on the injection of this class, it should work based on the injection of a new class. So you created a new class here. Now one place only you went and changed that old class with a new class. So that wherever, imagine there are 50 controllers and 50 controllers are using old class as of now. Now new class will start used by all those customers. I mean all those controllers. Okay. Before starting the application, you have to pre-plan it. Your architect will pre-plan. Have the dependency injection. Yes. Instead of tightly coupling with the class name. Yeah, yeah. Yes. It's a good feature. If you don't think also there is some requirement, still you start with that. You never know when suddenly that class object can be created in multiple places. But yeah, only one place or two place, nobody does that. But if you have no idea, today it is two place, tomorrow it may be 100 places that object will be created, then chance is there better to go for dependency injection, so that if you no use also it's okay. Got it? If tomorrow you say that it's no use, only two places I have used, I could have gone for simply new something, then also it's fine. I mean, no side effect. But if you have not planned, chance is there you have to title couple. There is no other way, right? So instead of tightly coupling the instance of that specific class, you are saying, "Hey, currently don't decide which class to be injected. You write and complete the code. Okay. Now later on you decide which class to be injected. So whichever class to be injected, you went and put that combination. Where else this interface there, please inject so and so class, right? Only one place you injected. Mm. 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 No, I didn't understand. If you asked something new, can you repeat it? Huh. Uh-huh. Possible. It's up to you. Imagine you didn't inject, then still that interface can be used for abstraction purpose. Abstraction is in place already. Like second interface, you want to go for abstraction, but you don't want to inject it, right? Possible, absolutely possible. Anybody else? Arun? At a time? No, at a time multiple not possible. Possible, but you have to write two definition. Imagine you want to say for this interface also inject this class, for another interface also inject this class. Possible. Multiple line. Multiple line. Okay, possible. Kumar, you have any question? It will add the dependency injection also, and it will maintain singleton wise also. Simply add, if you say, it will provide you dependency injection, but it will not maintain singleton. Only add also you can have. In fact, previously it was only add, now they change it to add singleton. Anybody else? Any other question? Okay. Now you have to implement this in your project also, right? As of now, whatever you have done, that's fine. No need to change the existing infrastructure. Here onwards, whatever module I will give, okay? One more module is there, providing feedback, right? So in that providing feedback, whatever new repository as well as new controller you are going to add, I will suggest you go for dependency injection as well, okay? So that if somebody is able to change the existing thing also, it's fine, because not much you have developed. So, but that is optional. If you don't want to change the existing, it's fine. at least whatever new development you are planning, there you make sure that anyway for every repository class I have suggested you to make one abstraction, right, interface. Anyway it is present. Only thing is one constructor to be added and one line in the middleware you have to add it, right? So go for it. Here onwards, whatever development you do, you go with dependency injection. That is one thing. Mock test, in the unit testing last class what we did, there is something called mock test. Okay, mock testing is a feature of .NET Core or .NET Framework also. Previously also it was there when MVC5 was there. But that needs dependency injection. Remember, without dependency injection, you cannot go for mock testing. So what is that mock testing? Why it needs dependency injection as a mandatory things? I think next class we will discuss. So we have something pending from the unit testing that we said as mock testing. So since that restrict us to have the infrastructure with dependency injection, so first I taught you dependency injection, then we will go to mock testing so that you can understand better.